have three people.
Yeah. And well, the thing is, those people are around all the time. It's just they're upset right now.
Land acknowledgement. We begin today by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is the traditional territory of the Wolastoqey. These territories are covered by treaties of peace and friendship of the Wolastoqey people first signed with the British Crown in 1725. Call our meeting to order. Attendance has been taken. Approval of the agenda.
Paul Powell, Ormonco, Len Faulkner, Freddie Convention.
Any discussion? Ready for the question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Are there any conflict of interest for disclosure this evening? Move on to number 5, consent agenda. A, approval of the minutes, February the 3rd, 2026. B, audit committee report. C, public safety committee report. D, community development committee report. E, economic expansion committee report. Could I have someone do the motion?
Marty Forsyth.
Any discussion? Yes, Director Corey?
I would like to see the Community Development Committee report removed from the consent agenda, please.
Okay, and you would like it discussed under number 6?
Yes.
Okay, you've heard that with the removal of number D, and when we finish here, we'll put it on number 6, item removed from the consent agenda. So we have a first and a second, or any discussion? Ready for the question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. So now we'll go to number 6, and we'll discuss the Community Development Committee report, and it's Director David Duplessis that was the chair.
You want me to read the whole report, or has it been read in the back?
Do you have specific questions that you'd like addressed, Director Corey?
I think they will be easy to determine where they are in the report without reading the report. You have to make your motion. He has to make his motion and then I'll.
Okay,
I move to accept the development report.
seconder,
Second, Dave Morrison.
any discussion? Director Corey?
Kind of 3 points, I guess, that raise some concern in this report. One is this consent agenda in general. I know this that's maybe inappropriate to speak about that after having used it, but there's a lot of paper that we see all of the time. We all see a lot of paper besides this paper, and we all have to do a lot of reading. And if we happen to not be really vigilant with that, we miss things. And when we do the consent agenda, we haven't sat in the committee meetings, we haven't been inside, we haven't heard it, so we have to find the information in here. I try to do that, and sometimes I'm even successful in doing it. So I think it's something in the, as we move along, that we have to stop and think about, is it a good idea for everything? So the other issue that I had was in this package, there was a lot of information from the Resiliency Network. As I went through that information, I said, well, are they us or them, or are we them, or our logos on their stuff? And who's paying for this operation? How do they fit in this committee report? I can see because they reported to them, but I was just really confused with what their role is in our organization, and if there is any. That was the main thing. And as I went through it, I saw they're into housing, they're into physician recruitment, they're into they're going to meet with Elections NB. They're going to the list is long and deep. So. And I didn't know whether decisions are made around that table or not made around that table, or what's happening. I'm sure that you've briefed us on it, John, somewhere along the way, and we should be really cognizant of what it is and how it works, but I'm not. Then in their report, I came across the document, or a number that concerned me. And that is on their report, the Community Development Status Update, January 30th, and item number 14. 13 concerned me a little bit, but 14 says, in December 25, the Capital Region Service Commission provided the organizations with $116,000 in funds to assist in the purchase of a truck to transport food, as well as 2 refrigeration units. The Oromocto and surrounding area food kitchen supports 11 of our 14 municipalities through this work. I went back on and I reviewed the tape of that meeting twice. And in our discussion, my feeling was that when Director Erickson requested the number, that the number was, that was given was 100,000. And it felt like that was the grand total of everything, and that we were paying 20% of that. So when I came across those numbers today, I stopped because that was significantly different than what it was, what I had assumed from our meeting. Now that may have been my misinterpretation of the information, but when I reviewed it again today, so there was about 100,000 was the number, and I assumed that was their grand total, and 20% was out. So, yeah. So my question is, are those numbers correct? I guess that are in this report, and the other is, what is our relationship with the resiliency network, if there is any?
Okay, I'll start the conversation. I may get going to finish it here through you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Lee Smarn and Carrie Bedford, at least I know there's a grant that comes for administration funds, and that totals, I believe, around $71,000. So a lot of that is paid for her for that. And as far as the 116,000, yes, it was supposed to be 100. You could stretch to 116 by when all was said and done. But 29,000 of that approximately came from the member municipalities out of 116,000. So out of us 13 municipalities in the rural district, we contributed roughly $29,000. But Lise and Carrie Bedford are on the resiliency committee, which is part of community development. And I think it's a good thing to have them there most days. And I know Greg Erickson is on the committee, and I think he probably would agree with me that they bring a lot of valuable information for a very inexpensive cost. I don't know if that answers any of your question, or maybe get John to elaborate on this a little more.
John?
So thank you, Madam Chair, and through you to the member. So Director Corey, within that, there's several different funds that we receive, whether it be through MESIC, whether they come in through, so there's in terms of that, MESIC provides $50,000 per year for transportation. That's for the urban rural rides portion of that. Within that, that's in 8 communities now. They also provide $50,000 for community action grants that are aimed at reducing poverty and are in accordance with the Overcoming Poverty Together 4 guidelines for, or Cinnables, if you will. And these are the deliverables that we look at, and that's on food security, financial literacy, transportation, stigma reduction, sensitization training, connection to benefits, and support for nonprofit groups. And they're also given, as Director Duplessis said, an administrative grant of approximately right around 71,000. And these are agreements that were signed in the early days of the CRSC, and we had brought that to the board. And that was to help offset the cost of having community development coordinators in the RSC. The 116,000 donation, as Director Gillespie said, 29,000 of those funds came from the member share, and the rest were through other leverage funds such as our RSSF, Regional Service Support Fund, and other programs that we had. And to give you a deep dive on that, I'll have to ask Mary Kay when she's back in terms of that. I normally ask permission to spend the money in terms of that, and I'm not trying to make light of that, I'm just trying to be honest with you. I go in and I have a conversation, whether it be with Brett or Mary Kay, and say this is something that came our way. As per the 11 of the 14 in the report, it's 11, as we had said from day one, directly and indirectly, all the communities of the Capital Region Service Commission are supported. Their immediate boundaries for the food bank, the Oromocto and Area Food Bank, proudly serve families in Oromocto, and they use some of the older names here, so just bear with me as we transition back and forth on Oromocto, Gary, Tracy, Burton, Fredericton Junction, Majorville, Cambridge Narrows, Gemseg, Gagetown, and spanning an approximately 75-kilometer radius. That's just in their catchment area. And then it says beyond the immediate catchment zone, we distribute and supplement food resources for partner organizations in Chittenden, Minto, Stanley, Village of Hope, the Fredericton Multicultural Center, the French Multicultural Center, Salvation Army, Greenwood Drive Baptist Church, Fredericton Community Kitchen, and Greener Village Food Bank, and 13 schools within the region. And that's for their backpack program. I think the key highlight of what we had in the partnership investment, whatever you want to call it, 116,000 went for a commercial refrigeration unit. It went for a commercial freezer unit. This allows them to prepare an extra 1,000 meals per month to put into the Capital Region program. And that is everything from the backpack program, as I said before, that where they had the children go to school, they may need something for the weekend, not just for the children, but for the entire family. They are able now, as if you recall, and when Jane Buckley, the executive director of the food bank, was into the community development committee, she also mentioned that they had lost pallets of food, and we talked about that with the media. They had lost food because their truck wasn't able to pick it up. Not everybody can just go pick up this food when it's ready. You have to have specialized, you have to have services that are recognized and food safe handlers to be able to do this when it's there. Then it goes back to their kitchen where everybody is trained and certified food safe, and they make these meals and sauces and soups and whatever else are in them. I'm not 100% familiar with the entire program. All I know is I hear parents talking about it and what a good program it is. And those children can go in and they can put on a number. I have 4 in my family and we need help for the weekend. And they pick up, that backpack's ready for them at the end of the day, and they take it home, they bring it back. If they need it filled again on another day or another weekend, they get that filled again. So we're adding another 12,000 meals per year into the Capital Region food bank system. And I think one extra meal a year helps, but 12,000 meals is based on the investment, partnership, donation, whatever you want to call it, was made. And I think that's absolutely significant. And not only that, but the ability to have a truck readily available so that when these big companies call, and a lot of this is through private sector, and a lot of it it happens even within our churches, within the communities that support this, whether it be, I don't want to name the churches, I'm just saying there are a lot of them that do a lot of outreach to raise food and collect food for the food banks locally and across the region. And sometimes they pick that up and they distribute that, but it goes all throughout our region. Whether it goes down to Macadam and then gets filtered back up through Macadam into Harvey, whether it goes up through the Fredericton Community Kitchen and gets filtered into Naquit, Millville, whether it's out to one of the other kitchens, they partner with everybody. When we ask Jane, who do you partner with? they all work together and they serve as a distribution hub. There was one other point that I wanted to make, Director Corey, within that was looking at in terms of bringing the folks together and doing that. The reason that we around, I think there was a comment around how we connect. And one of those connections is through local churches. We use them for meeting halls, we use them for connection into the community. And why? Because many people in those communities still go, especially in the rural areas, still go to churches looking for help. And they bring churches into it. We often rent rooms in the churches to have community meetings to try to give back. And we are able to reach out. So when the resiliency network and all of these groups are coming together, and if you recall, I once, I think more than once, I've mentioned whether they be at meetings or in forums. When our first community development coordinator was on with us, Brett and I, and at the time Don asked, how many groups work in this space in the capital region? Because I got on a call and there was 3-4 layers of pages. And you all see my office, I have 2 large screens and it was full. And then I went to the next page and they, it was there and I was overwhelmed. I gotta be honest, I was overwhelmed. And the work that these folks do is very good in the region. Many of it, yeah, it's in there and some of it, we did our synergy study to look at duplication to ensure that we weren't duplicating, replicating, working together, not duplicating. And the synergy study found that we were not duplicating in the region, but we were actually helping to replicate and do this. So when we talk about, I've often said about Director Nicklin or Director Fox and their communities, their settlement services teams when there's newcomers. And how do you roll that out? How do we get that in other areas? We're doing that. Director Forsyth called and I want to know when the next meetings are on financial literacy. I think Director Forsyth, we've gotten back to you on that. And there's meetings being set up. All of these things that we do to build community are out there. The staggering number of community groups, so to get back to my point, it was 346 in 2023 that were working in this space. 346 organizations that we could categorize and put in that NPO, NGO space that we're doing this work. That's why this is such an evolving process. It's huge. And I'll ask Brett if he would speak to the resiliency relationship with the Capital Region Service Commission. So,
Sure. Thanks, John.
if you don't mind.
Yes.
Sure.
Yeah, so resiliency, Director Corey came up in 2022. It was new to us. And I think Director Duplessis mentioned the 70,000 or so that funds that group. That comes from the Department of Justice and Public Safety, and it's administered by the Department of Justice and Public Safety. I believe Carrie Bedford, who you noted in the report, she actually is an employee of theirs. And so we're affiliated with them. We participate in those. We try to incorporate some of the good things that they're doing and some of the resources that they have on hand into our community development role. But that is not a group that is directly administered by the CRSC or funded by the CRSC.
Our logo is on their paperwork.
For us, in accounting terms, Mary Kay would say it's an in and out. We have a relationship with them, but that's not something that's funded through our budgets. But we do participate. So yeah, the logo is attached. We do try to integrate their activities as much as possible with our goals in community development, but that's not something that we pay for, and it's not something that we administer.
To clarify the issue with the 116,000. So I should assume then that a total of 570,000 was spent in that project and we contributed 20%? That would be my interpretation.
No, sir, Madam Chair.
Yes.
No, the quick answer is no. The total value of what we had put into that was $116,000.
So In
But
the 20% was about what though?
the 20, it was about 25% in total of what we put, that's the 29,000 that Director Duplessis mentioned. That would have been the share of the members' contributions that was directed to that. The remaining funding, whatever the balance is on that, would be from leverage funding from other sources, whether it be RSSF or other programs that we were leveraging.
But it was all Capital Region Service Commission
Well,
budget.
I guess technically, yes, it would have been part of the budgeted funding for which in 2025 total budget on that particular stream. I may have brought that with me.
I don't, and then I can find that.
413,000 in terms of the entire
So I'm
budget.
just trying to get the
Yeah.
picture.
Yeah.
Because the picture I left with at the other meeting was 100,000 and 20% of it, and that was wrong, I guess. I mean, so.
Slightly. Yeah, when the final numbers came in, it
So
was
it was all-
116.
It was all Capital Region, so.
Yeah.
So from the point of view of the Ormato Food Bank, they got $116,000 from the Capital Region Service Commission.
Yes.
Director Duplessis, you have something to add?
But some of that, like our CFO was not here this evening, some of that funding would have been lost. Is that not true? If we had not used it, a small portion of that?
Technically, we would have, if we didn't put it into a reserve fund or a second year previous surplus or something, we could have lost some of the funding and we could have lost some of the other funding, but for the most part, yes, you're correct, Director Duplessis, we would have had some, but it's best to get it out, in terms of that. With those programs, oftentimes, with the RSSF, if we don't spend it and we can't move that funding into the next year, that got to be carried forward for 3 years forward. So we're dealing with that in this year with, for example, on infrastructure. So any of the funding that would have been clawed back from that would not have been able to be carried over in any way, shape or form, but carried over for 3 years for use down the road. And it would have been, and then we have to figure out how we're going to, if the board wishes to engage in programs and services that we can offer that will expend that funding, because it is a good funding match. It's 50-50. It's a dollar in and a dollar match.
Madam Chair, if I could just add through you to that answer. I think you're correct, Director Corey, when you say it was, from their perspective, it was Capital Region Service Commission's money. I would, it's my impression that the majority of that money, as Director Duplessis said, was not money that we, in theory, our money could truly be rolled over into a second previous year surplus or into a reserve fund. In this case, the money would have disappeared. So it would have been off the table. The majority, approximately 89,000, as I understand it, came from other funding that would have ultimately disappeared. So it was our money. It would be perceived as our money, but it wasn't our money as if it was part of an operational budget.
It might have been better
Duplessis?
supported by a better explanation at the time.
Director Duplessis?
Through you, Madam Chair. Yes, I don't disagree with you, Director Corey. It probably could have been further explained and maybe more supported in detail, but at the end of the day, $29,000 from us 14 members, I think is a small price to pay for the amount of meals and the food and the service that this food bank provides to the capital region, to all the municipalities. I don't know if that softens anything or not, but to me, I think it was a good price for what we get out of it. But yes, I'm sorry you didn't have more detail and more up to speed on how it was broken down. We'll try to do better next time.
So, by the way, they do not, the only service that gets provided in Ormocto for our food bank is when the truck unloads from Moncton. And after the stuff is left over, they send a truck down and pick it up from the cabin. That's it. And that's the same with the rest. So to make it a strong partnership would be an overstatement, I think. although all of them work well together. And if one wants to pick up the phone and call the other, they'll all help one another out. That's who they are. But it's, there's no service relationship between the Academy Food Bank.
Through you, Madam Chair, I think the CEO of the food bank, Jane Buckley, I think she's willing to work with even, I know in some areas there's small churches just trying to get food banks up and running. And I think she's more than willing to try to support these and supply food to them so that she's covering the whole capital region at the end of the day. Yes, it might be a little overstatement with Macadam. They're really not in our service commission, but it all goes to the root of getting it distributed, I guess, is what I'm trying to say at the end of the day, so.
Any further discussion? No further discussion? Ready for the question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Move on now to number 7, the Finance Committee report. Director Corey, please, national report.
Find it.
You have a couple, 3 motions on the floor after your report.
I really don't have a copy. So the Finance Committee report has basically contains 4 motions, and they're all kind of self-explanatory. And the first motion is that I move that the board receive the report of the Finance Committee dated March 3rd, 2026.
Have a seconder?
Kevin Nichols, Grand Lake.
Any discussion? Ready for the question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Your next motion, please.
These decisions relate to the operation or administration of common service and require a majority count of the votes accorded to directors present based on weighted voting formula, by the way. So motion number 2 is that tender 1-26 roller 270126 be awarded to Maritime Case for one new 2026 Anman ARS 130HX as described in the tender for $181,281.25 plus tax.
Have a seconder?
I'll second it, David.
Any discussion? Ready for the question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Your next motion, please, number 3.
That tender 0226 Dozer 270126 be awarded to SMS Equipment for one new 2026 Komatsu D61PX-24 as described in the tender for $346,093 plus tax.
Seconder?
David Nashwa.
Any discussion? Ready for the question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Your 4th and last motion, please.
That the chief executive officer and or chief financial officer be authorized to issue and sell to the New Brunswick Municipal Finance Corporation a Capital Region Service Commission debenture in the principal amount of $660,000 for such terms and conditions as are recommended by the New Brunswick Municipal Finance Corporation. And be it resolved that the Capital Region Service Commission agree to issue post-dated checks payable to the New Brunswick Municipal Finance Corporation as and when they are requested.
Marty Forston.
Any discussion? Ready for the question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Director Corey. Move on now to the staff report, CEO report. John Smith, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As many of you know, and we talked about it at the last board meeting, the Human Development Council project, I just want to say thank you to the members that have participated to date. We had a high rate of success in gleaning information in the rural areas, and we're on track to meet our target of March 31st. And not only that, we've also met with with representatives of our largest communities as well within this. As you recall, the project was primarily focused around gleaning information on homelessness, housing, and contact and connection with services in the areas, but primarily focused on rural areas. But we also wanted to have that input from the larger communities to how it intersects with what they're seeing on the ground in the communities. So we've been, I'm meeting with the consultant again tomorrow. And I've already had another outreach from the Human Development Council to talk about when we get it, how do we look at possibly next steps in this. So it's been a fair amount of information to date. So in terms of the CRSC, so we're having an information session for potential candidates on March 18th. And this is for mayoral candidates and council candidates that want to know what it is within the Capital Region Service Commission. So we'll have the chair and the vice chair and some of the committee chairs and members. Whoever wants to participate, we'll be able to have them around the room to answer questions. And I know that some communities have done something similar. I know that the one in the capital city of in Fredericton has been very successful. And so we want to emulate what we see and replicate. And, you know, it's the surest form of flattery, I guess, is what they say. The presentation was developed by the CEO group for the province, and special thanks goes to my colleague in Fundy, Phil Willett, for his hard work on the presentation. And when we have this session, you'll be able to see that. And I appreciate our staff efforts within that, especially Kelly and Amanda on this as well, getting this ready for us. This is an effort to give new candidates that have not been involved with the Regional Service Commission information at a high level. And we'd like to address questions such as, what do you do with the RSC table? What is our time commitment? What type of committee work do you do? Could I participate, or what type of committee work could I participate in? How is your budget set? And so on. Common questions, but still questions that should be answered, and people will know what they're getting into on the front end. This emanated out of a session that was held by the CRSC Community Development Committee, in which we invited the Chief Electoral Officer, Kim Poffenroth, to come in and present to the committee, and it was very well received, and certainly lots of views for that. And we thank Ms. Poffenroth for her time as well when she and her staff came in. And Ignite will also be hosting a session on their products and services for all potential candidates on April 8th. So right after our annual general meeting on April 7th, the next morning, they will be having a session. I believe it's going to be at the Delta Hotel, and more information will come out on that very shortly. And we're hoping that it'll be well attended. On physician recruitment, we're continuing our work with respect to physician recruitment. And as you know, from our meeting prior to the board meeting, Stiletto is engaged and they're working with us. I've also held a meeting with the Vice President of Communications, and on behalf of the CEO group for the province, I've set up meetings with the CEO of Horizon, Margaret Melanson, and she's very open to that. And really, you know, this is a personal philosophy I have, but that communication and education, however you interchange those, solves most problems. And from what we're hearing on the ground is we need better communication and education on things in order to help us attract new physicians in the capital region. So we're working with the team at Horizon. We want to continue to work with the Department of Health, and we want to work with all the partners, whether it be the New Brunswick Medical Society or whomever that may be. We want to work with all those partners and bring them together. And we're still continuing to work with your CAOs and your clerks on this. We have a session with them on March 17th on physician recruitment that they'll be doing similar to what we did this evening. And we also have, we're also continuing to work with all of the partners in the region and with the committees that have been set up in your communities, and they're gonna be invited to have conversations as well. Aquatic Center update, at the last meeting, I had indicated that we'd be having a full report tonight, and we are waiting on some final documentation to close the books in this file. One of them came in as recently as yesterday, so we're still gathering the information, but Mary Kay and the team will have a report, Brett and I and Mary Kay at the next meeting. We're having a special meeting to do that, prior to our meeting, and that'll be held on March 25th at noon. And a meeting will be sent out soon after the meeting this evening for that. I think it's out already, is it not, Calendar? We're close. We're March 25th. Just went. So while we're sitting here and I said it'd be sent, it was. So thank you, Kelly. Orientation of the new board, and that's everybody around the table. Those who hopefully come back and anyone that's in a new role, and we're gonna have orientation of new board members be held on June 18th on 2026. Right now, we're looking at the Mactaquac Lodge, and located at Mactaquac Provincial Park. We're gonna have a full day, our very robust orientation and onboarding. We'll have lots of this time we're gonna make it interactive and have some activities and even get everybody out for a walk to get to know one another. So please hold the date and the time, and the full logistics package will be sent out over the next couple of weeks. And I noticed some are giggling at the idea of getting out and walking and talking. I didn't want, it's gonna be like school. We're gonna get the principal here to watch us and make sure everyone behaves. So Madam Chair, I'm willing to take any questions that may be
Okay, if
posed.
there's any questions, I'm gonna start on this side and we'll go around the table. Dr. Harrison.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to the CEO. Regarding the Aquatic Center update, the meeting invites, are they going to include some of the stakeholder groups that were part of our discussions on this long journey that we've been on?
We'll certainly, sorry, Director Erickson, I should let you finish first. Through you, Madam Chair, Director Erickson, this is a special meeting of the board. We can certainly notify groups, they can watch the meeting online, but it'd be the same rules as this evening. There'd be no public participation unless previously determined, but this is our report to the board within that, so that's what we'd be looking at.
Next, have any questions, comments? No? No? Dr. Fox?
I think. Good.
Good?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Good?
Any better, I couldn't stand it.
I knew you were gonna say that, I tried to cut you off before that. Okay, thank you very much for your report. I need a motion to adjourn,
Motion to adjourn.
seconded by
Paul Powell or Monto?
meetings adjourned, thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay, and then
But,
And however you